I'm super excited to share with you the powerful, powerful final part of the series, Tithing Your Master Key. And we found out in the previous weeks that there are certain things that we can prove God with when it comes to our tithing and our giving. Tithing is our way to reconnect and to stay connected to God and His covenant. We found out that when we bring Him the first and the best, when we return the tithe in expectation and in faith, when we buy into God's dream for us and believe that the 10% will protect the 90%, when we do what God tells us to do according to His word, He will bless us supernaturally. And so today we're going to talk about all the access that we gain when we when we move into obedience with our tithing and our giving. Malachi chapter 3 verse 10 says, "Bring ye all the tithe into the storehouse, so that there may be meat, so that there may be resources, so that there may be glory, power, ability, revenue in my house. And prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will open for you the windows of heaven." Windows of heaven, our first access as tithers and givers is God giving us not only His intelligence, but everything that's within heaven as a resource. So when we bring the tithe in faith, we can expect our first access, our master key to open for us heaven's intelligence, the mind of God, and the ability to know what we should do for our success. Then He says He will pour out a blessing that will be so great we won't have room enough to receive it, which means that He will pour the blessing on us, and then we will be poured out a blessing. It won't be for us to just keep to ourselves, but it will be for us to empower, transform, and enrich the lives of other people. So our second access is being poured out a blessing, being able to do something and create something that will be a blessing to other people. And He says, there will be no room enough to receive. So one of the things I always do when I'm tithing and giving is I ask God to increase my capacity so I can receive more and I can give more. And I also do a lot of personal work, personal development work with my thoughts, with my thinking, with my speech, with what I say, with my confession, on making sure that I'm making room for the blessing that God has for me. Many of us are tithing and giving, but because we're so fearful and we're in unbelief and we're afraid and we're scared to reach out and do what God has told us to do, we don't make room for the blessing that He wants to pour on us so that He can pour it out of us. Verse 11 in Malachi chapter 3, verse 11, He says, "And I will rebuke the devourer for your sake." So we found out that the first blessing is heaven's intelligence. The second blessing is that He's going to pour a blessing on us that's so great it will have to be poured out of us onto other people. The third thing we find is that God is going to set a boundary for a barrier against the enemy. And if he dare come in and take anything that belongs to you, God is going to punish him. So it says that He will rebuke the devourer for our sakes, verse 11, Malachi chapter 3, verse 11. "And he shall not destroy the fruits of our ground," which means that there is, when you see a tree and the tree is healthy, the tree, if it's a fruit tree, it will bear fruit. All right? So if it's an apple tree, it will bring forth apples. If it's an orange tree, it will bring forth oranges. If it's a cherry tree, one of my favorite fruits, it will bring forth cherries. If it's a grapevine, it will bring forth grapes. So He's saying that when you tithe the right way, when you give God your first and your best, when you understand that the tithe belongs to the Lord, it's holy unto Him, when you get a revelation that the 10 protects the 90, and when you do this in faith and in expectation, not only does He rebuke the devourer for your sake, or set a boundary for the enemy and make him pay when he gets into your resources, into your health, when he comes against you. But it also says that he will not destroy the fruits of your ground, which means that what you're trying to produce, God is going to protect. Now that's a blessing. Because if you're starting any type of project or assignment or a job or business or organization, if you're just trying to plan an event, whatever it is that you're trying to produce, God says, I won't let the enemy destroy the fruit of that. Have you ever worked on a project and your heart was to bless people and people took it the wrong way? And at the end of it, you threw your hands up and you said, why did I do this anyway? No one even got the reason for what I was doing it for. Well, God is saying, I'll protect that. In protecting the fruit of your ground and the fruit of your produce, it also is Him protecting your reputation, your ability to work, your ability to think clearly and to do what you need to do. So He says, I'll rebuke the devourer for your sakes. He shall not destroy the fruits of your ground. So that's the next access that we get with our master key, is we unlock fruitfulness. That means that no more barren, dry, destitute days. God will make you fruitful. And He says that neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field. Which means that not only does God rebuke the devourer so you can focus, and not only does God protect the fruit of your ground, protect your place of productivity and make you fruitful, but He's also going to regulate your timing. Man, so the tithe does so much more than what I learned when I was coming up in church. Like I told you, I thought it was a dues, it was a rule, it was a way to just be like just bondage. And I found out that it's my key to not only having Satan rebuked from my territory or a boundary set for him, but it's also a way for me to become fruitful. And it's also a way for me to have my timing regulated. Now, timing is so important. When you think about things like the woman at the well, there was a Bible story about the woman who comes to the well to get water, and Jesus is there. That timing had to be regulated. Had she come 10 minutes earlier or 10 minutes late, she would have missed Him. And so many times we are not walking in the blessing because our tithing and our giving has not been consistent enough, and we haven't expected God to do what He has promised us to do. He promises to make sure that when you get there to interview for the job will be available for you. When you make that call, the person that on the other end of the phone will be the person you need to speak to, because He also regulates our timing. So He gives us fruitfulness. And the next part of our access, or the next thing our master key opens, is our timing being regulated. Regulation of our time. And then He says, and I will rebuke the devourer, verse 11, for your sake, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith the Lord of hosts. And then this powerful next verse, verse 12 says, and all nations shall call you blessed. Blessed there means empowered to prosper, means fortunate and happy. I was reading it in the Message Bible. Listen to this. You'll be voted the happiest nation on earth. Wow. So not only does God want to bless you and regulate your timing and rebuke the devourer for your sake, but He also will cause other people to see the blessing on you and cause you to be an influence or a role model or a blessing to them. All nations shall call you blessed, for ye shall be a delightsome land, saith the Lord of hosts. The Message Bible says you will be voted happiest nation. You'll experience what it's like to be a country of grace. God of the angels' armies said so. Did you hear that? He says that when you tithe the right way, that people will look at you and call you blessed. Not only that, the God of angels' armies will make you a country of grace. Wow. I said, Lord, give me the tither's blessing. I thank you for an opportunity, Lord, to prove you right here based on this verse with my giving. So now when you move forward with your tithing and your giving, I want you to remember these things as we close this series out today. In the next few moments, I'm going to pray with you, but I want you to remember these things. Number one, tithing was before the law and it's after the law. And it was never instituted to put you in bondage. It was instituted to bring you into the blessing. The next thing that you want to remember is that if you think you know, you will not grow. So open your heart, your mind, your spirit to revelation on your tithing and giving and watch God manifest the greatness that is already in you. The next thing I want you to remember is that the tithe means 10, so it's 10%. It shouldn't be divided into parts. It should go to the place that gives you your spiritual food and causes your life to prosper through the word. The next thing you want to remember is that we're not doing this like it's a casino. We're not bringing the tithe and saying, okay, God, now we're going to pull the lever and you better bless us. It's a principle, and when we do it and buy into God's strength for us, it will work for us. The next thing I want you to remember is that the tithe is holy unto the Lord. So you can't really pay the tithe. You can return the tithe, and then you can sow your seed. And when you sow your seed and return the tithe, you should do so with expectation and with faith. You should believe that God is going to do what his word says, because he said, prove me. Now, here are the things we get access to when we tithe and give. Number one, heaven's intelligence. Wow. That's enough. Just to know that when we go into a meeting, an opportunity, a situation, that we can draw on heaven's wisdom. The next thing that we receive is that he will pour a blessing on us, so it's okay for us to live well, but he will also pour us out a blessing, so he wants us to bless other people. The next thing that we see is that he will rebuke the devourer for our sakes. So instead of us spending all of our time warfaring in prayer, and there was a time for warfare prayer, but you can't war all the time. God says, I'll do a lot of the fighting for you if you just tithe right. I will rebuke the devourer, set a boundary for him if you just tithe right. The next thing we find out is that he will make us fruitful. Somebody say fruitful. He will bring us into fruitfulness. The next thing we find out is that he will regulate our time. Now, I want to always be in sync with the timing of God. I don't want to take a job or move or access something prior to when I should. And when we tithe and when we give, we can ask God to regulate our time. The next thing he says is that he will make all nations call us blessed. Blessed means fortunate, empowered to prosper, happy. And the God of angels' armies will make us a country of grace. So this word was never meant to condemn anyone. Doesn't matter what happened before. Start right here today, consistently tithing and giving with this revelation, and watch God bring you in to the overflow.